a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show, where we challenge everything and everyone here on OMTimes Radio, where we challenge the world, wait for it, one ohm at a time. As always, we will start tonight's segment with the hot topic. Now, the hot topic is something that gets me hot under the collar or makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But before we do that, we want to make sure that any of our new listeners or our old listeners who maybe forgot or misplaced the concept, come to facebook.com/mydrkevin, MYDRKEVIN. Make sure you click on the like button because I'm a likable kind of guy. Trust me, it really is true. We'll even ask tonight's guest. He'll lie for me, I'm sure. And there at the very top of the post is tonight's radio show with tonight's guest. All about tonight's guest, the click links through about how to find him, and you can be part of the conversation. You know, the people that make the difference in the world are the ones who stand up, speak out, take an action. I don't mean just whine, complain, and, put things down, but people who actually come up with solutions instead of focusing on the problems, who have an inclusive, how can we fix this, instead of blame and finger pointing, and who take some actions, some positive actions, who want to make a difference. Well, there's a lot of people out there listening tonight, and you may have a solution for them. You may have an insight. You may have something of great value, and they're not going to get it if you don't come to facebook.com/mydrkevin. Ask a question of myself or my guest, or just post something that you feel is important to do with our conversation. I am not going to promote any kind of hate, judgment, or bigotry on this show, unless it's mine, of course, and then it's okay. No. But come there, click the like button, and join the conversation. So now we're going to move into today's hot topic. As we move into today's hot topic, it is a hot under the collar. It seems like I do more hot under the collar than warm and fuzzies. I'm going to have to look at that. I'm going to have to look at that and see if I can shift or change that somehow. But tonight is definitely a hot under the collar, and tonight is about Brock Turner. And, it's not just about the rapist. He's been guilty. He was caught with his pants down, I think the term is. Witnesses, I don't think he even tried to deny that he raped an unconscious girl at a party, at a frat party. But, we have mandatory sentencing, and I have a difficulty with mandatory sentencing. I mean, it basically says that Congress that's up on high with, basically up to their eyeballs in corruption, greed, and lobbyists, no more than the local judge who's, sitting there and, trying to assess the case. And of course it was created, about, drug dealers, those bad people that, sell that, $5 bag of marijuana, that bad stuff. But they have mandatory sentences. But this young man consciously, knowingly, and willingly participates in an act of rape and gets 6 months in probation in the local county jail because the judge doesn't want to negatively impact his life. What does the judge think happened to the girl who got raped? Does he not think that her life got negatively impacted by this? Does he not think that she may end up having to have years of therapy or, go through a process of healing? We have very little knowledge of who Emily was before this. And I'm hoping I am using the right name. And I apologize if I don't, because I am looking at it right here. They mention his name all the time, but they very rarely mention her name. But she's going to be the girl known as the girl that passed out and got raped. and what kind of negative impact is that going to have? So the question to my guest, after I introduce him is, what do you think about mandatory sentencing? And if we're going to have mandatory sentencing, should it be to make sure that the good old boy network doesn't, dismiss the act of rape as a minor incident and blip on the radar screen? Because I will guarantee you it was not for this girl. So now let's bring in today's guest, and I'm going to do that by, we had him on a few weeks ago, and his enemies, because, he's a spy, or used to be a spy. He probably still is a spy. He probably lies about used to be a spy, because that's a spy kind of thing somebody would do, is Justin Recla. And we had a lot of technical difficulties. If we have them tonight, then we know that we're being bugged by the government. Justin has 15 years of experience in advanced training of the U.S. Army and the government defense contractors abroad. He is a subject matter expert in tactical questioning. That's when they put the light on you and stuff like that. Investigative techniques. I think that's what they use now for waterboarding. And develop standards for these specialties while working in the U.S. Army. He's an educator in the concepts of effective communication. Talk to me or you will die. And has taught hundreds of future federal agents how to conduct subject interviews. Do you know what the FBI can do to you? Source interviews and reports on investigative functioning. Justin brings his skills from the military sector and delivers them to the boardroom to help business owners protect their most valuable assets. Corruption and greed. Time and money. You can find out more about Justin at facebook.com/DIY due diligence. Or at clearbusinessdirectory.com, or his Twitter account is twitter.com/Justin Recla. If you couldn't write all these down really fast, then you have to come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin and just click the links. Trust me, it will be so much easier. Justin, are you there?
I am here, Kevin. How are you?
Good. So, tonight, the first question to you is, should we have mandatory? Do you think we should be having mandatory sentencing? And if so, should it involve things like rape so that it doesn't get treated like a non-sequitur, a non-starter?
Well, I definitely think that mandatory sentencing that is actually upheld is really the key to that is actually upholding those mandatory sentences. And like you mentioned, the good old boy system that still exists within the court system is really where the problem lies. I've seen the memes going around on this Brock situation of, Brock got 6 months for doing what he did, and a black guy got 15 years for doing the exact same thing. So that mandatory system, the good old boy system, just is really where the problem lies. So yeah, I definitely think that mandatory sentencing is good. It becomes a great deterrent, but only if the system in of itself works.
And what do we do mandatory sentencing for? What makes? Should we really have it for a $5 bag of marijuana?
Oh no! For me, something like and this is going to sound odd coming from the government guy, but this is also part of the reason why I left government. Is the crimes like marijuana? We're seeing so many states deregulate that, and Colorado to where it's now recreational, and all the other states that are coming on board for medicinal use. And I think we're going to see here soon in Arizona that it'll probably be for recreational use also. Is really those kinds of quote unquote victimist crimes are really what crime took place when you bought a bag of marijuana. Now, something like rape. Like you had mentioned too, the judge said that he didn't want to have any type of negative effect on Brock's life. Like you said, what kind of negative effect did Brock's actions have on that young girl's life? And so for that, where there is a certain level of responsibility that has to take place from an individual's actions, and by all means, that when those individual actions have an effect on somebody else, then by all means, I think those mandatory sentences should take place.
Well, I think that what happens is you get extra kudos for things that are beyond your control, like the family you were born of and the place you were raised and the gender you were born and the race you were born and stuff like that they get held against you. Now, I think we should have mandatory sentences. I think there should be a mandatory sentence of at least 25 years for every politician who takes even a 5-cent bribe from a lobbyist. I think that should be mandatory, 25 years in jail. I think we should open up Guantanamo Bay and ship them all there. What do you think?
I definitely think that in politics, I definitely think we need to get back to the way that politics was designed. Is it was designed as a something that you did for 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, that you did while as part of service to the country, and then you went back and you ran your business or you did what it is you did, and there was it wasn't meant to be a career. It was literally meant to come in, invoke change, make change happen. You did your time, you served, and then you left. And you're absolutely right. The politics have gotten so corrupt with who can get bought and literally the illusion of choice that we think we have when it comes to our vote is a little bit crazy. It's gotten way beyond the scope of the matrix because it is so corrupt. And I agree with you that you take money out of politics, bring it back to service, and that completely changes the system.
Okay, and there comes our music. We'll be right back with Justin Recla, Spy Extraordinaire.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know. I've tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Are you wondering what is really going on behind the news? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold-Holland on Share on the Air Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us on shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. Check it out.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes Radio. Here on the Dr. Kevin Show, we challenge everything and everyone. And we're sitting on OMTimes Radio, which is changing the world one ohm at a time. Can we get a little Om there, audience? Om. Tonight's guest is Justin Recla. Justin is a very interesting man that I've actually known. How long have I known you now, Justin? It's been a few years. Justin, are you there?
Going about 5 years there, Kevin.
You gave me a smiley.
That's it. Yeah, going about 5 years. It was this coming March will be 5 years actually.
This coming March, Justin has 15 years of experience at ignoring messages, advanced training with the U.S. Army, and government defense contractors abroad. He is an expert in tactical questioning, surveillance, counter-espionage, threat, and vulnerability assessments, investigative techniques, and he's developed a standard of these specialties while working for the U.S. Army. Justin brings his skills from the military sector and delivers them into the boardroom to help business owners protect their most valuable assets, time and money. You can find out more about Justin and what he does at clearbusinessdirectory.com. That's clearbusinessdirectory.com. And, of course, come to facebook.com/mydrkevin, MYDRKEVIN. You'll find all of Justin's links in his description, and you'll be able to click right through and see how Justin can help you. Hey, I'm a poet. Did you see how that? Did you know it? Did you see how that rhymed? So we started this a few weeks ago, and we had all sorts of interference. You know, those black ops from the Washington were shutting us down.
I had my sweep team come in.
Oh, okay, good. So this is a segment where I ask you to take the listeners outside the box, and I'm going to ask you the same question because we got so discombobulated last show with technical difficulties. So where do you want to stretch their comfort zones? Where do you want them to invite them to grow because of your insights and wisdom, Mr. Recla?
This is great. I think it fits in really well with the talk we just gave 2 nights ago on what consciousness and awareness looks like in business. And what I really would like to challenge your listeners to do is with the businesses that you engage, take a look and ask yourself, how transparent are those businesses being? Are they operating from awareness? Are they operating from consciousness? How do they give back? How do they contribute? And really, I mean, it's a political season, right? It's the political year. It's the time to vote. And the best way that we can vote, whether it be a politician or a business, is with your dollar. And really start asking yourself, the business that you engage, the businesses that you buy from, shop at, eat at, whatever, are you supporting them because it's habit, or are you supporting them because they're doing something right? And really take a look at what businesses are doing and how they operate, because part of the system that's broke is the corporate structure, right? Corporations buying votes with their dollar. Well, most people don't realize that when you go to the grocery store, it looks like you got a whole bunch of options, when in reality you've got maybe 5 choices. Because if you look at the companies that own all the food brands, it comes back to typically one of 5 companies that own that product. And so just be really conscious of that and have a level of awareness and ask yourself, okay, how is this business doing business? And is that something that you support? Because every time you give them money, you're saying you support that business regardless of what it is they're doing socially or not socially, or however they're contributing. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that coming up. Don't you agree?
Well, I think we're seeing a lot more of that coming up. I think it's very insidious. I think that we somehow have to short circuit the fact that the major companies keep on getting bills and things pushed in their direction, pushed in favor of them, that smaller businesses, organic businesses, true holistic businesses that are serving the community are more likely to get laws passed that go against them, make it more difficult. And if anybody thinks that the major corporations in the US of A play fair, then they need to wake themselves up and take their head of where they've had it stuck and look at the truth. I did a blog a while back called Out Damn Spot. And the other thing that we're not aware of is we talk about these companies that are sending jobs overseas or that are not treating their employees well or won't give raises or don't give benefits. And we wear them on our sleeve of, oh, they're so awful and I won't go shop there or this or whatever. But if you look in their investment portfolio, they own the stock that benefit off all of these screw jobs the corporation's doing. And
Yep.
guess what? Makes you just as guilty. Actually, a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, because you're supporting those companies financially. And I like to tell people if you want to go out to eat, find a local mom and pop shop. Avoid the chains. Buy from a local farmer. Buy from a local business. Support an entrepreneur. There's so many entrepreneurs out there that are quote unquote grinding it, that have skills to get done whatever it is you need to get done, but they're entrepreneurs. They're not large companies, and in doing such, it helps bring back to the community. And so it moves away from this idea that there's these large companies looming over us and that we have no choice in our day-to-day transactions and business and entertainment and all that kind of stuff. So when you bring it back to the smaller businesses, the entrepreneurs, the mom and pop shops, you're really voting with your dollar and you're actually helping support those that are really out there trying to make the change.
And I always say, if you want to support change, do it in the privacy of your bedroom. Don't flaunt it to the world. Keep quiet about it. But I couldn't agree more. And the dollar we do end up making differences with the dollar when we have awareness with how we spend the dollar, and we just don't go with what's, Madison Avenue is the Svengali of all time for brainwashing you into making choices you just don't even think about.
Yep.
Spending money you don't have, spending it supporting companies that you would be horrified if you thought about it. But we are kept in a semi-hypnotic state through TV, through computers, through video games, and we're getting flashed these little messages. And then when we're having a really stressed out day, or we just aren't, are off, or we just don't have time to think, the automatics kicked in, and the automatic switches are not being put into you and into your thought processes by the people that you would choose if you thought about it.
Yep. That's why so I tell people, kill your TV. They call it programming for a reason. They call it programming for a reason. And it's, what's really neat is that when you are supporting a local entrepreneur, that small business, it goes back to the support of the community. But this is really where the challenge comes, is that when you're out shopping, when you're out engaging in business, or you're out eating, stop and ask yourself, why am I eating here? Is it because it's a known chain? Is it because something you know? Is it something that you've done out of habit? Are you doing it on autopilot? Because most people, a lot of consumers, go through life on autopilot, and the big companies bank on that.
Well, and there's a difference between a small regional chain that maybe has 5 to 7 restaurants in a region and is still owned by a family or an extended family. Don't put those in the same, I'm not saying you are, but I'm telling the listeners.
Oh, by all means. There's a small pizza joint out here. It's owned by a family originally from Chicago. They moved out to Arizona because it's right for business, and they just opened up their 4th store, but they're only in Arizona.
Yep.
So that's completely different. This is not Walmart.
Yep. So, but I think that's very good. And if we actually went and looked at every dollar that went through our fingers every time we pulled out a charge card and said, who and what am I supporting with this money that I'm going to have to work hard, end up paying interest on sometimes to get back to do it, I think that you would see much different spending habits. And the thing is, that there was a survey or something I saw a while back because I did another radio show on it, but this had to have been a year ago now. But how many times more your community is benefited for every local dollar you spend. I mean, it was like amazing figures. I had a woman on that runs a nonprofit, actually in Phoenix, because I did the show. I was still in Phoenix when I did the show, so probably a year and a half ago. But she had the numbers about when you spend, when $1,000 is spent in the local community, this much does this and this much does this. And when you spend that $1,000 in Walmart, you get, boom, this tiny little bit of a feedback. And it was really impressive stuff. I'll have to try to remember her name because, like I said, she's right out in your territory.
Yeah, and that's you hit home right there because that's really kind of the reason why we put together the Clear Business Directory was to show consumers that, hey, there are businesses out there willing to operate in transparency so you know who they are. And for us, that's always a telltale sign of who we're going to engage with. And if a business is not being authentic, they're not being transparent, and it just doesn't feel good to do business with them, you don't have to.
Yeah. In most cases. There are still those little things that get kind of sort of tied up unless you're going to make all the effort. Like, I am so irritated with the utility company around here.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation. We could do an entire show on monopoly-based businesses.
They're going through and doing unnecessary cutting all over the place. They are cutting so many trees. And as a utility, you can't sue them. You can't chastise them. You can't challenge them. They've somehow got some kind of golden goose status that they're going in and they're ruining the value of some of the people's properties. I mean, it's just disgusting. We'll be right back with Justin Recla.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Hello, hello, hello. And welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show, where we challenge everything and everyone. And today we are challenging Mr. Smith of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. How is Mrs. Smith?
She is phenomenal and says hi and sends her love.
Oh, baby. Well, now I'm all befuddled and I can't continue. I'm interviewing none other than Justin Recla. Justin, you know, I've read your bio 2 or 3 times. I want you to share exactly, were you or were you not a spy?
We were definitely in the spy arena, counterintelligence, U.S. Army. So we got to do a lot of cool things. I was over in Afghanistan and Iraq, getting people to provide me with information for our own intelligence gathering needs. But I got to admit, I got a little bit of envy because my wife got to do a lot of the sexy stuff. She can outshoot me, she can outdrive me, and she knows how to knife fight. So, yeah, we definitely come from the spy world, and it was a lot of fun. But our time there was, I'm glad we broke free of that matrix. How about that?
Well, you know, because we went through some of the questions, not through all of them. And I certainly want to give you a chance to talk about what you want to talk about. But, you know, it's pretty interesting because, you know, when you say the word spy, people think of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and people think of James Bond, and people think of course, my all-time favorites were the Avengers with, you know, Emma Peel and Steed, you know. So
what does that look like?
Yeah, what does that look like? And I just saw something appear on my screen which took my attention, which was about our first story. Brock Turner, the sex offender to be released from jail after 3 months instead of 6.
Oh, look at that. The good old boy system, hard at work.
Hard at work. So anyways, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And when you finally left our corrupt government, how many showers did you have to take before you felt clean?
Took me about 2 years. But you know what? The funny thing is that one of the reasons why we left is the U.S. Army had actually come to Tonya and asked her to write a class on critical thinking. And Tonya and I were the only 2 people to first teach it. And it was really neat because Tonya and I had done some journeying, and we had our moment of awareness, and we knew we were kind of on our way out of the government sector. And this class that we taught was kind of the gateway to it. But it was really amazing because we were literally teaching new agents concepts of awareness and consciousness, because we knew that it would make them better agents. More importantly, it would keep them alive in the field. And you know, we were teaching them grounding techniques to, you know, feeling the inside of their feet before they go into having an interview with somebody, to in-group, out-group dynamics, and how you can get into somebody's in-group fairly fast, because in the spy world, that's extremely important. If you're especially going after information from somebody, you want to be able to get into that person's in-group as fast as possible. And so, you know, we taught that class, and we realized that was kind of our calling, and recognize and kind of give us the permission to leave government and do what it is that we're doing. And so, you know, we had a lot of fun. My time over in Iraq and Afghanistan was, you know, moments of pure adrenaline, followed by, you know, long periods of extreme boredom and heat. But you know, I'm glad I had that experience. I would imagine Tony would tell you the same, because it got us to where we're at. And we bring a skill set to the business world that most people don't have. And kind of I like to tell people we're a combination of where the woo meets the do. And we bring a different perspective to not only business, but personal growth and all sorts of different things. So it was a lot of fun. And, you know, it's not for everybody. And I finally definitely hit my threshold, and was glad to have transitioned out of that.
Well, all I could think of is when you said that the woo meets the do. was, that old commercial, "A little dab will do you." And do you remember that commercial?
Yep.
For Dippity Doo?
Dippity Doo, a little dab will do ya.
Yep. And I can swear and cross my heart to all my listeners that if you ever met Justin, a very little dab would do him.
It's good for the chin hair, though.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. It was just too good. Okay, so this is the behind the curtain segment. And did we get to go through my little game last time? I can't remember. Or were
we touched on it, but I don't think we got to play it fully because I think we got the topic we were on last time was somewhat we were somewhat focused on the main topic throughout the entire conversation, that the short periods of time that we had together.
Yes, I know. My time with you was so brief. My heart still aches. Shh! Don't tell your wife.
I won't.
Yeah, you said she could shoot better than you. I'm not interested in being chased. Anyways, but so did you get the pop quiz question about the line from the movie? Yes, no?
No, I didn't get it.
Oh, okay. Well, we have to start there then. So
right.
This is the quiz. From what movie did this line come from? Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Of course, Wizard of Oz. Because
the great and powerful Oz was really a shyster from Kansas whose balloon got blown in the wrong direction. But he wanted you to believe he was the great and powerful Oz. There are many people and many corporations and many individuals and many organizations, even spiritual, religious organizations, that want you to think that they're great and powerful. And if you really pull back the curtain, they're just some shysters that are blown off course. So which one of those would you like to expose to my listeners today? Who do you think just a shyster that's out there pretending that they're great and powerful?
Oh, wow. There are so many. Let's just say because of it, business is good. There are so many. Oh, good night. Wow, where to start? Well, first off, I'll just let everybody know here. If you're in business, if you're raising capital, be very leery. I won't get into specifics. Just know that there's a lot of scams and frauds out there. If you're raising capital, a lot of people that are going to take advantage of you in that arena. But I think part of one of the biggest things out there is I'm just going to hit on the political season right now, and I know we all know this, but it's really take a look where the money's coming from. Watch it doesn't really matter what candidate you're looking at, but really look behind the scenes. Who's controlling the strings? And in my opinion is that it really doesn't matter who gets into the presidency. Nothing's going to change because the system's broke, and the people that are actually making those decisions are not the people that are sitting in the presidency. It's the other people. So outside of the politicians, good night. Are you wanting a specific company?
I'm just anybody that comes to mind. This is your chance to share something that may actually make a difference in our listeners' lives because they never thought about it before.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I think the first thing that comes up is, for me, you know what, here's a good one. In the business world, we see a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting up, right? And they may be transitioning from an employee into the business sector. Be very leery of people who overpromise. And I'm going to pick on the self-help industry here for a specific reason. One of my pet peeves and a lot of stuff that I've seen behind the scenes are the self-help industry, where you get a lot of people that are on stage making you feel real good about yourself because of the message that they deliver. But at the very back of the room, you don't get to continue that feel-good stuff unless you spend $5,000-$6,000, right? Take a look at that industry. look at the people that are on stage and ask yourself, what are they really doing? Are they living the life that they proclaim, or are they pretending to? And what are they delivering? And can they actually deliver it? And who have they delivered it for? There's a lot of hype around what makes you feel good, but there's very few people that actually will give you the action steps that you need to take for yourself to actually be able to achieve that level of success that they promise. And so there's a lot of, like the Wizard of Oz, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on in certain aspects of that industry. And so just be wary on who you're taking advice from, and really dive in and look into my favorite word, Google. Google somebody's name with the word ripoff, fraud, and scam, and see what kind of information you find. That'll tell you a lot about the people that you're taking information from.
Well, one of the things is, and I couldn't agree with you more, I find the same thing in the spiritual New Age community happening, as well as the self-help, and they've kind of become incestuous cousins in some places.
Yep.
But what I see happen most often is they take somebody with self-worth and self-esteem issues. They give them incredible things, which things that are incredibly difficult to apply or maybe understand or work with or do, or they sound good in paper, but they don't really work in the world for them, or they don't know how to apply it. And then if they don't get somewhere, they get humiliated into, well, it's your fault. You didn't believe hard enough. You didn't try hard enough. I gave you the $1 million check and you didn't cash it. How dare you ask me for a refund so that you can unmortgage the third mortgage you took on your house to pay for my $25,000 course?
Yep. We say it all the time.
Yep. And they deserve to be great inside the politics.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the last segment of the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes Radio. If you'd like to be part of this conversation, if you'd like to ask our super sleuth spy, and he can go ask his wife and get an answer for you, any questions, let us know. We have Justin Recla on the show today, and Justin has created something called clearbusinessdirectory.com. Justin, are you still with us?
I am here.
So I was very curious. On break, I went and I actually put my name in and put the word scam to see if anything showed up.
And?
That's what you told our listeners.
Yep.
And everything was fine until I hit this one thing, which seems to be a nutcase website called unicracity.com. Are you familiar with it?
I am familiar with it.
So how do you take a nutcase site? Because I've never met this guy, and I know that my name is on here because I've taught before at CEO Space.
Yep.
It's very clear. And anybody that looked at this that thought it had any legitimacy was probably somebody I wouldn't want to work with anyways. Am I off on that or what?
No, you're off on that. You're not off on that. You're and you bring up a good point. One, you have to consider the source, right? I mean, when you take a look at sites like that, it's obvious that there's not a whole lot of legitimate anything going on, right? Matter of fact, I think I'm even listed on that site. It comes back to if you do the digging, there's not a whole lot of legitimacy to anything that's said on that site. And there's all sorts of other information out there. And this is one of the reasons why we teach people of consider the information and where it came from. You have to, the process we developed for our clients is something we actually took from government. It's what we call the whole person concept. And you have to triangulate the information. What do you know? How do you know it? And have you verified that information? If somebody was solely to make a decision on whether or not they're going to engage with you based off of that information that they found on that one website you just mentioned, by all means, they're probably somebody you don't want to work with anyways, right? But what we tell people, especially small business owners, is if you don't know what's out there on you, then how can you be transparent and authentic about it? And so that's kind of where the Clear Business Directory came from is it allows business owners to say, hey, look, I know this is out here, but here's my side of the story. Because when you look at the whole person concept, every story has got sometimes 2 to 3 sides to it. And you have to take all that information into consideration when you're making a decision on whether or not you're going to get involved with somebody. So something like that is, again, not a huge thing. But now that you know it's out there, you know how to address it. So should somebody bring it up to your attention, you can say, yeah, I have no idea what that is. I don't even know why I mentioned there. The only reason why I'm probably mentioned on that site is because of the person who created it came from this entity that we may have crossed paths one point in time. Right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't add a whole lot of weight to it. But the more important thing is that you're not going to run from it. Now, if you find somebody out there, you run scam, fraud, and you find information on that person, you can now go back to that individual, that entrepreneur, that business owner, and say, hey, do you know this is out here? And if they say, well, no, I didn't know it was out there, we'll just say, well, it's out there. Can you let me know what happened? What's your side of the story? If they hem and they haw, you've got your answer. But if they address it up front and go, well, okay, yeah, that was a client. We had a communication issue, and this is what happened. Then that changes any type of negative response because of the way the person responded. So, ripoffreport.com is a great place. Type your name in there. If you're looking to get involved with the business, it's a consumer complaint site that if somebody's ever had a bad experience with a business, it's typically going to be posted there. And I love using that site because if somebody does have something on them, it's a great place to see if the business owners filed a rebuttal. And if the business owners filed a rebuttal to a complaint, then typically if it's written well, then that typically kind of outweighs the negative response, because if you're doing business, you're seeing thousands of clients a year, then there's a good chance somebody's not going to like you, and that's okay. It's on how you choose to show up as a business owner and respond to it when somebody addresses it as a concern that really makes the difference. And so again, if you don't have a whole lot of bad, if that's the only thing that you got on you, you're doing okay, Kevin.
Well, you just love that, don't you? So one of the things is that, I was listening to you prattle. One of the things I did was I actually went on and typed in fraud, typed in scam. What I did discover is that there's some other place that's trying to give my book away free. We just had to shut one down the other day that has just decided for some reason that it's okay to take an author's work and give it away for free so that they don't have to be paid for it. What do you, from you guys' standpoint, what could somebody like me, like an author, is there anything that I could do through you that would investigate these places that do that and be able to, sue them or do whatever? I mean, it's so funny because authors make so little off the books, and then when you find people decide that they should just give them away for free on the web so you don't make anything on it, it's a little irritating.
It is, and it really comes down to risk mitigation of really what are you set to gain from, suing somebody in that situation. It may just be simple of getting your legal team to do a cease and desist letter. Because, again, like you said, most authors are making very little off their books anyways. And if you're going to go after somebody, it's going to cost you $5,000 or $10,000 just to get them to stop doing what it is that you do, what they're doing. So something like that, I would consult with your attorney on a simple cease and desist. But if you've been ripped off, and this is where we see a lot of people getting in trouble is that most people that are getting ripped off, especially small business owners, they're getting taken for $5,000-$10,000 because they didn't do any due diligence. They didn't look into those businesses, and had they done some due diligence, they would have found out that the business wasn't legit. And it's typically what happens when people come to us. It's always after the case that they tend to find us. That it's a hard lesson to learn, but the reason why those businesses that are not operating in integrity are charging $5,000 or $10,000 for their service is because they know they can do that over and over and over again, because nobody's going to prosecute them. Nobody's going to take them to court because it's going to cost them $60,000 to get that money back. And so really where the power lies is with the business owner, with the consumer, is to do your due diligence before you get involved with anybody, because it's going to cost you $5,000 or $10,000. And that $5,000 or $10,000 is kind of a big deal for you. You look into it, because a little bit of due diligence on the front end is always less expensive than cleanup on the back end. And so for that, the best way to do it is to, the best way to prevent stuff like that from happening is to check it out and do your due diligence before you put information out and get involved with somebody. And if somebody's stealing it from you, then the best thing you can do there is really contact your legal team and find the most cost-effective way of handling that situation, because you don't want to spend a ton of money on something that's going to give you no return.
Do you think it has value? Do you think that it has value that if people go to someplace like a Ripoff Report and complain about somebody that has ripped them off, that maybe perhaps you will somehow interfere with them doing that to somebody else?
Here's the thing. So I like Ripoff Report for what it is, okay? But the sole reason why the Clear Business Directory was created was to allow businesses to operate in transparency. It's not a complaint site. It's not a rating site. It's not a peer review site. It's not Yelp. It's sheerly, here's a business, here's their transparency report, and the consumer can make a decision. And I don't necessarily agree with the consumer complaint model or the peer review model. I believe that we're all responsible for the decisions we make as individuals and as business owners, and that ultimately at the end of the day, we have to do our own due diligence on who we engage with, not only in our lives, but in business as well. And that's one of the reasons why we created the Clear Business Directories, to help people make those educated decisions for themselves without diving into the negative realm of complaint sites.
So, I get that, I brought up Ripoff Report because you brought up Ripoff Report.
Yep.
And our music is getting ready to start at any moment now.
Yep.
And there it is. So, hey, Justin, we got through a whole interview.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Kevin.